beautiful here in St. Louis
right.
compared to probably Chicago and Wisconsin. I heard it was snowing there. It is not snowing here.
Not good.
So, exciting episode today.
Yeah, exciting episode.
Well, I will say the mugs you chose. I chose mine. EIU alum. EIU Panthers. We
Medical
also got
College of Wisconsin.
MCW.
Yep.
So big represent.
Yep.
So
Cheers.
Cheers. And we will, for those who, if you didn't read the title of the stream, we are talking about board games today. We have a mix of the classics with also some of the new kind of the more popular ones that have come out more recently.
Oh, most definite, because games and gaming has really changed over the last, I'd say, 20 years. More specifically, things are more internet aspects in electronics versus the traditional board games back when they were more popular. Now, some of those games are still popular, and we'll get into that.
We stuck to more of the traditional what a board game means, where it's not really electronic. We'll kind of talk about
we did.
Because a lot of the games you chose have electronic additions nowadays.
Right.
Because of just they've changed it.
Yeah, we decided to kind of talk more about board games and not really electronic, just because. But. I would say just because of the nature of the games. When you get into electronic, there's too many games, too many variations, and it always requires the use of a computer or an iPad or something like that. But in our case, we wanted to talk more about board games. Now, and there are newer board games, too, that are out there that the Zoomer age group loves compared to the Boomers. And before we really get started in all this, we do encourage you to go out to our page because we've made a lot of updates to our streaming page, and
we're trying to get with the times, make it look a little nicer,
And we're saving it for last. We will be presenting everybody with a new logo for the grind, and we'll, like I said, at the end of this episode, you'll get to see the grind.
And it's pretty cool. I will admit, I spent a lot of time on it, and it came out, I envisioned the logo, so people who have tuned in for a while might have an idea on what I think the logo, what we wanted it to be.
Yeah.
I think I did a pretty good first pass, I would admit. I'm not the most artistic, but this time it came out.
And, it cost Brooke some time, and $10 is all for this product that we use. So you can get some great products out there that you can do a lot with, and I think are pretty easy, because I ended up watching a YouTube video on the tool itself, and it took me maybe 10 minutes to really understand what it was all about. So hopefully you will stay throughout the episode and see the new logo unveiled at the very end. All right, well, let's get into these board games.
So we went through, we picked, each of us came up with our top 5.
Right.
And I kind of had to suffer the blow of, I like the more traditional games, but I added some to my top 5 that might be of the newer sense. So kind of mix it up. But I think, would you like to start with your...
I can.
I think we should save the number 1 for last.
Yes,
and
most definite.
I think everybody, if you'd like to take a guess at what you think our number 1's going to be,
right.
Drop it in the chat. Maybe if you guess right, first person to guess right, maybe when we start making more mugs, we could send you a mug.
Right.
Who knows?
Right. That's correct. Yes. These mugs are going to be a hot item here after this new logo gets put on there. But I'll start off with my number 5, and I'll caveat it a little bit. So the number 5 is, I'm going to say, Candyland, and there's a couple reasons for that. First off, Candyland, I think that is just a great American classic. Everybody knows how to play Candyland. Even, I think, today's generation knows how to play Candyland. And the other part I like about it is the fact that I'm slowly moving into the grandparent age. Well, this is a game you can play with your grandkids.
I thought you were going to say with your grandparents.
No,
this is a game because it's simple.
Is what you can do.
I would agree. Very interesting pick. I think it is such a classic, and I bought it because I got it for $2 at Target one time. And, I played it, I opened it, and I think I put it right back away because I think it's too simple.
It is very simple.
I will say that your reasons for liking it was for its simplicity. So I will say I'll give you that. But it's not one I would play now. I guess I think the only times you played is as a kid or with your grandkids.
Right. Well, and if you think about it,
or with your kids.
The instructions are pretty straightforward. You just turn over a card and go to the purple square or go to the candy cane etc., and go down the right path. It's a pretty simple game. So, I would imagine it's ages 2 and up would be my guess.
It probably is.
Yeah. And now, what I would say too is this game you can probably pick this up really cheap at a garage sale.
Or Target. Yeah. I mean, I got it for pretty cheap, and I was at it. It was under $5.
Under $5.
I was like,
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
So it's really nifty, for something like that. And I also think it's a colorful game. And we talked about it being board games. The one thing I like about this is, when I think of traditional board games, I think of a board that you lay out on a table, and then you sit around it, and you have playing pieces, and you play the game via rolling dice or something like that. So it's a very, in this case, a very easy board game because you turn over a card, and you do have pieces. And I would assume the newer Candyland games, I wonder if they have pieces that are more look like people or something like that.
They might nowadays. They might.
They might have something like that.
Yeah, so I think that was an interesting first game to bring up.
Good first.
And I'd also like to say, I don't know, we kind of had to do some audio and stuff changes. So let us know if the audio is coming in bad. I can kind of edit it on the fly.
Right.
But I'll go on ahead and move too. So my number, I wouldn't even really say number 5 pick, but it's not my number 1 from the list that we have.
Okay.
And that is, it's Catan. But it's one that I really do like playing a lot. I don't think you've ever played it.
I've never played Catan, so I don't know much about it.
So it's basically a game where you're trying to, you roll dice, and based on, it involves probability, and, the most common numbers get rolled more, so you get those resources. And you acquire these resources to build roads and settlements.
Okay.
And the goal is to have the most roads or settlements, and then you get points, and that's kind of how you win.
So it's kind of like some of those online games you see where you're building things. Like, what's that one favorite game that you have that you're running around gathering stuff, and it's the one, Animal Crossing. It's kind of like that where you're building stuff.
But that's a video. I think that's too complicated. This one, it's a little more simplistic, where it's just you set up the board and you roll the dice, and it's kind of, you have to play according to how the dice roll, sort of thing.
So,
but it's pretty good. I don't know if, and this is one where I included it because I think it's I don't know if it is when it was first made, but it's more common with my generation to know how to play it.
Where did the name Catan come from? Because is that some kind of
I have no idea.
A Latin word for house building or something?
It might be. It's called Settlers of Catan. Technically,
Settlers of Catan, okay.
Because you're supposed to be building the roads between your settlements.
Yeah.
And so you can get a point. So I think the goal is to get 3 or 5 points. There's a certain number.
How do you win this game?
Getting 5 points.
Okay.
And you get that from building settlements. But there's also kind of some fun ones where the longest road.
Yep.
So if you have enough resources to build a ton of roads, you can just build a road through the entire board, and it kind of hoses everybody else.
Got it.
So it's kind of a fun game to play with a group of people because you can it's the classic board game style where you can gang up on someone.
Okay.
If they're doing too good, you're
up.
because you can trade. Basically, there's stone, wheat, sheep, clay, and those are your resources, and you can trade. So you can be like, hey, I'll trade you a clay for 2 wheat. Okay. But you don't want to trade with the person who's in number 1. So you kind of give them a really bad deal.
So it does sound like this is a game that people can pick up on relatively quick.
Yes. The first time I played it, I actually won. But that's because everybody was ganging up on someone else. So.
But that's the type of games that I like, just because you don't want it to be complicated. Otherwise, it's too hard to understand as a gaming tool.
But I think it's one of those ones. It's really simple, but there's not one way to play it because it really depends on the people playing it and what gets rolled, and so it's kind of a fun one.
Right.
So if you have never played it, I do recommend it. It's a pretty good game.
And again, feel free to throw in your favorite game inside the chat, because we might give it an honorable mention, or it might be in our list that we'll talk about more in depth too. So do we want to roll into my number 4?
Or just your next one? Basically, I'm going with it's your next pick that's not number 1.
This is again, I would call this more of an American classic game, Dominoes. And there's different variations of Dominoes, but mine is pretty much your standard domino set. I think it goes all the way up to double nines. I don't like getting into the higher versions.
So when you say variations, you're just talking about the number of dominoes.
Number of dominoes, right.
Because there's also Mexican trains or Hawaiian dominoes. There's other versions, but you're talking about the number of dominoes.
Right.
Okay.
And I'm not one that likes the complexity of some of the other games like Mexican train.
I don't even know how to play it.
So I go for a more simpler version. And again, it's because it's easier to understand. Everybody knows what's going on. Therefore, more people can play it quickly, understand what they have to do. Now, dominoes, the part I like about this is you can get all kinds of different sets. For example, my son Jeremy, he's a woodworker. He made us a really cool woodworker set of dominoes. And this is a game that we play at a lot of our family gatherings. Not every family gathering, but a lot. And it's a very simple game. When you play standard dominoes,
it's simple, but trying to teach the idea of, because you have to build a train in a sense of, because you're trying to get rid of all of your dominoes. Yep. So teaching kind of the strategy is a little bit harder because everybody kind of does it a little differently.
Right.
Some people play it where they're like, I hope someone puts up a penny.
Right.
That's their strategy, which I don't do that, but some people like that method, and
of course in the game of dominoes, everybody gets a penny. And if you can't play, you put a penny on your domino and you wait till you can play, but you have to play on yourself. And again, the rules are pretty simple, I think.
First time, you would at least be able to participate well.
Right.
You wouldn't be completely, out of the game.
Now, your traditional dominoes, and maybe I'll throw this out to our studio audience. I wonder, when I think of traditional dominoes, I think of black dominoes with white dots.
I don't think that. The other way would be the colored ones, but those are usually in the mega sets with a ton of dominoes.
Right. And the one set we have, they call them, like the boneyard is where all the dominoes are in. Now we don't use those terms too much, but when they're white with black dots.
Oh, because that makes sense. Because I see. Right. I never knew that. You learn something new every day.
But dominoes are pretty easy to pack. You just basically have them in a box. There's no real game board. The game board is a table.
Yeah, it's true.
And I've never tried playing dominoes online. I guess you could, but
I don't even know. I'm sure there's a version, but I can't say I've ever done that.
Yeah,
and I've played a lot of board games online.
Right.
I've done a lot of them.
And like I said, the other part is I think if I were to put an age range on dominoes, I would say ages 6 on up, wouldn't you think?
For dominoes, I'd say a little closer. You could teach a 6-year-old, but it would be difficult just because of their attention span. Right. I think this one requires some critical thinking, where a little kid wouldn't plan.
Right.
They would have poor planning, so they would be able to place the dominoes, but they would probably put a penny up really early.
Correct.
I think that's the difference. Where Candyland, anybody can play that.
Candyland or something. So. Yeah. So this game, again, does, I guess that's a good way to put it, it does require some strategy and thought.
Yes. Maybe if you're just really good at you just got to get really lucky. And sometimes there is some luck involved. If you just don't happen to get the number you need, you're just host.
Right. No, agreed.
But yeah.
All right. Well, let's go to one of your top 5.
So this is it. I was trying to debate which one I wanted to do next, and I think I'm going to go with good old classic.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. And I threw this one into the mix because in college we played this game a lot.
You played this a lot in college?
Yes.
I guess it's mind-numbing.
It was, when it's really fun because, someone would be winning and we'd be and you have to say sorry whenever you knock their piece off. And it would just get really intense because, one person would get their piece sent back to start. And multiple times.
Now, in Sorry, again, there is some strategy in Sorry, but it's not a complicated strategy.
You gotta go. So this was the common strategy we use. So I'm hoping most people are familiar with it. You draw 1 through 12, like a card, and that's how many spaces you move. And we would always do the strategy where we would bank on getting the 1 or the 2 and then the 11.
Yep.
Because the 11 meant you could swap pieces. So instead of just you get a 1 and then you get a backwards 4. So we would play for the backwards 4 because it was just more fun. Because instead of going all the way around the board,
true,
you skip it and go backwards.
Right. Again,
yeah.
I think that.
But this one, I would say, I mean, any kid could play.
Yes.
I think this is on the same, pretty close to the same level as Candyland because it just, you flip a card and you move those spaces, and the strategy comes in of like how you use them. But I mean, there's no one perfect strategy because you could be playing for the backwards 4 and you never get it.
It is card based, which again I like.
Yeah.
There's no complexity. If you turn up a 1, that's what it is.
It's a 1.
Yeah. The only, I guess, the more difficult one is the 4. Does the 4? I can't remember.
Well, it says go backwards
back
4. Yeah.
Okay.
So each one has their distinct. Some are just like you move 6, but there's also like this is where I think the strategy comes in. If you draw a 7, you can technically split it between 2 pieces.
Right,
so you can use your strategy to move it to knock someone off, or you just move all 7. Where I think younger kids would just move all 7.
That would be the only one. But when you have, obviously, I think it's limited to 4.
4 people though.
Yeah, limited to 4.
And I think that's why we played a lot because there was a group of 4 of us, so we were like, this is a great game. I think I actually one of my cousins, Heather, had lent me a bunch of games, and this is why we played it a lot because that was what we had.
Oh, so the Charleston connection came through up there.
So we played a lot of Sorry. And now
world.
I really want to buy it again just because I thought it was so much fun then.
Yeah. Now I'll throw this out there too, because one of the things I found not so good in the buying the game at the store world nowadays is the games like Sorry. If you go buy it, I think it's very cheaply made.
Yes. The version of Candyland I bought, that's why it was $2.
So I would highly recommend picking up some of these games from a garage sale because I think they're much better quality.
Or
a little more sturdy.
A thrift store.
Thrift store, yeah.
I have found a lot of classic board games in really good shape and not missing pieces.
Right.
That's the key. Not even puzzles at thrift stores. So
good point.
That's another good place, and it's pretty inexpensive. So
yeah, so stop by your local thrift store, and I'm going to do a plug for St. Vincent de Paul because all the Catholic churches support St. Vincent de Paul. So go buy yourself a board game, for a $1 or $2
for Christmas. It's a great Christmas. Honestly, I got Catan for Christmas last year. It was on my list, and I was like, it's a good one. Just good to have.
Very good point. Very good point.
Board games are always good gifts.
All right, so let me go back to one of my top 5.
Or is there? Well, I guess you don't know what's in my top 5. So I was gonna say we could just do one that isn't.
Don't. So one of my top 5 ones would be Life, the game of life. Now I'm not talking about real life, because that's a game you never win. So.
Real gloomy day over here, apparently.
So, and if you're watching the podcast, you'll see the many of these games we've been showing here are actual pictures of the games in my basement, and this is one of them. So look at that happy family on that board there. They're just enjoying themselves.
I don't think I've ever played a game of life and it's been a happy especially I think you need to talk about this version of life. The really fun feature that I think makes this the best version of life.
Oh yeah, we'll go into that story here in a little bit, but anyway, in Life, I think you can probably have about 6 or 8 players, I think.
Yeah, because there's usually a good number of colors,
right?
yeah. And I mean, really, this is one, as long as you have, you can just keep track of it. So as long as someone's got something to move along, I think you can do it.
Yeah. Now, Life gets a little bit more complicated because there's a lot of different rules. Like there's, if you play it to the fullest.
Yeah, we read the box one time and we were like, "This is a rule."
Yeah, and there's interest and all kinds of stuff, but basically you spin the dial and you move the number of spaces on there, and the objective is to get to the very end with the most money.
Yes.
And
except.
Well, and this is where
there's usually an exception for some of them too, because you can either go most of the games have an end where you can choose the millionaire path or somehow they give you another option that if you're going to lose, they have some sort of ploy to kind of be like, you can take this risk and maybe you'll win going this way.
Right.
And in this version of Life, it's that you bet it all on one number.
Yeah, so basically at the very end you have to declare if you want to just keep going on to the millionaire side. And usually if you have a lot of money, you just go that way. But if you're losing, you can double down and
well, no, it's not double down.
Well, you're rolling the dice or something.
You roll the dice. If you do it, you automatically win.
Yeah, but
you pick one number. You put all of your belongings on it, just because it's and
it's 1 through 10. So you have a 10% chance of hitting your number.
It's a pretty good, because it's always fun, because, it's a 10% chance, and
but
it has happened
I know
before.
we were playing way back in the day. It was, I think, Tyler and...
What's Tyler?
Well, Tyler and Doug, I think, were playing.
Yes.
And I think we were whipping up on them, and then they put that bet down, and whammo.
Then they won.
Instant win.
It was the most electric game of life I've ever played. And, you never think you'd say that, but... and this is one where one of my friends found this version of life at a thrift store.
At a thrift store.
Yeah, and I was, it was Doug. It was pretty good. That was and now I love playing this version just because of that reason. It's the best one.
Well, and it teaches you about family too, because you have kids on here and you get money for having kids. That's not real life. It's the other way around.
There are the spaces where you gotta. I will say the second best version, I think, is the one that came out after this, and it was kind of the next. Probably what a lot of people my age will remember as life. But I think now once they started getting to the using like the credit cards and it was the electronic system, it kind of loses the fun of because you can visibly see who's doing really well. And when you kind of get rid of the tangibles, you can really, when you get to the end, you don't know. So in it's Life Twists and Turns is one of the credit card versions.
Credit card version.
Yeah, and everybody has.
That's why I want to teach my kids here. Here's a credit card.
And now when you put in your card, and it's like a system that says it, but you can't see anybody else's scores, so you have no idea how you're pacing.
More secretive.
Yeah, so I don't think it's quite as fun because I think it's fun to see someone whenever they land on a tax space,
right.
And you're like, oh, you gotta take out a loan.
Well, I was thinking about this. So the game of life, it really teaches you some real challenges in life because I know.
This one you have to buy fire insurance, house insurance, life insurance.
And you get income tax.
Yeah.
And then you end up you get charged. That's sometimes based
if you
on
land
how many
on a
kids
space,
you have or something. You get charged things, and so there's all kinds of little things in this game that are really more reflective of the real world. Getting taxed.
Maybe that was it. We were kind of talking about how teaching kids real life skills in school. Just have them play life.
Play life all the time, right? You learn
Just play life.
But too bad there's not a checkbook in there somewhere.
Yeah. That's where the credit card one comes in. They can use that one to do that.
Well, and I mean, there's different squares. I don't know how many different pieces there are, but you can also get revenge on people too.
You can in this version. You can. Yeah, that one's pretty good.
Get revenge.
Yeah.
I forget how that works exactly, but you take away their money or something like that. But you're traveling in a car the whole way. I think there's some you get automobile insurance, and your car breaks down once in a while. Yeah,
because you can opt out on getting it, but there's spaces if you land on it, you get you get pounded with fees.
It's not good, not good. All right, so let's pull up one of your lists, Brooke.
So another one that's on mine. Hopefully you guys can't see what I'm scrolling through.
Just going through a list of games. We identified quite a few games, but I think the real good games were pretty easy to pick out.
I was going to do chess. Did you add a picture of chess?
I did add a picture of chess in there.
Oh, I see now. I think, is this it? Yes.
Yeah, here.
Yeah. I mean, everybody knows what chess looks like.
Right.
But this is one that I've started playing recently, but I really like the concept. This is one, you really got to think. You can play, but otherwise you can't play people who are fairly decent at it. But I like that there's a challenge to it. I don't know, I prefer board games that are a little more strategic and a little more challenging. So this one's kind of in my top 5 for that reason.
I mean, in my mind, it is a great board game. It's just 2 people. That is the only challenge, though.
Yes.
But the part I like about chess is what you said. It's very strategic. Now, I'm not one that studies the games and stuff, so I just kind of play it. And I don't want to say wing it, but I just
That's how I do it. So I decided that, I first started playing, I don't know, maybe about 6 months ago, and I really started actually playing it like I've played before. I'm not bad, but I'm trying to see how far I can get without learning the set, strategies.
That they talk about.
Yeah, I don't want to learn the theory of it. I'm going to see if there is a limit to how good I can be. Because some of these people, I get checkmated all the time. It's crazy. The game will be over in 20 seconds, and I'm like, I don't know how this happened.
What just happened?
But it's pretty fun. I usually do the 10-minute because there's also, I think why I like it, there's speed chess and there's longer chess. And I think as you get better, speed chess can be really fun because it forces you to be on your toes and kind of react.
Well, I think chess has become a resurgence of popularity because of what was the movie that was recently?
Queen's Gambit.
Queen's Gambit.
That's why I kind of really started playing it, because when I was watching, I was like, oh, I forgot how cool chess is.
But
and I would say it's kind of like an adult version of checkers. Like, I would never play checkers.
Good point.
So chess is kind of the replacement.
Right. I mean, good point. The only thing I would say is weird about chess is that there's a little bit of a stigma with it, that it's crazy people that play that game.
I don't think it's crazy people. I just think people think it's a very nerdy thing.
And then, I would say it used to be nerdy.
Yeah. Like, I think that's now it's kind of just become like a traditional, or not traditional board game, but like a more commonly played one. But I think what's nice about this and what I like about it is, like, I can play and it's easy to play, like, online. There's always kind of people playing, and like, you always play against someone at your level.
Online, I would think, though.
But you're matched up against with someone with the same score as you.
You are? How do they start that?
Well, I use chess.com. And they basically, every time you win, you get plus this amount. Like, it kind of is based on who you play against. If you're playing someone like 50 points higher than you, you don't lose as many for losing because they're that much better.
Gotcha.
So you can kind of work your way up and down.
There's lots of strategy in the game of chess, because of just what all the pieces can do. I do like a real traditional chessboard, the ones that are real nice. I like those because, of course, you can get a very simple chess game, probably, again, a couple bucks. Just
you probably
pieces.
could.
And you can play it anywhere.
I did see one when I was looking up, like, because I was trying to figure out what my top 5 were. They make like a Nintendo version with all the Nintendo characters. Which I think that would be really confusing, because you'd have to remember this means that and this, like, unless they're dressed a certain way.
Yeah, and I would say in the world of games, I don't like it when they make a game and they base it on a movie or something like that, where they take a traditional game and then they say, okay, this is the Star Wars version of chess.
I kind of like it, because some of them are cool. I think it depends on the game, though. I think certain games it's okay.
It does exactly what you said. It makes you think, okay, is Obi-Wan Kenobi, is he the king or what? I don't know. So I would say I'm not in favor of that from that strategy. But
it's a reasonable point, though.
Yeah, but the chess games, I think they encourage younger kids to start playing this just because of the strategy and stuff behind it.
What's good, it's a good way to, like, kind of get your brain thinking and stuff like that.
Right. I wonder if they do that, if they have chess clubs at, like, the schools, grades 1 through 8. So I know they're starting to have more chess clubs.
It might be a little bit more. I know, we do have the Chess Hall of Fame in St. Louis.
We do, yes.
We do have Chess Hall of Fame.
So if you come visit St. Louis, you can always go down and see the Hall of Fame. And I think Webster University is like one of the top 5 colleges in the world of chess. They're always rated very high. There's a lot of significant coaches that are there that come from other places. But I think they had a big chess tournament down in the Central West End about a year ago.
Probably, because that's where the Chess Hall of Fame is. That makes sense.
But it's very good. All right.
Yeah, so I think, we're getting close. So these are we're coming on the top 2 for each of us.
Yes. So I would say my, in the top 2, I'd have to put Scrabble. And, Scrabble, and I think you can have, how many players can you have in Scrabble? Is it 4 or is it more than 4?
Usually it's 4, but some of the, like, the more pricier versions, you can have like 6, I think. But usually I think it's 4. I think 4 is kind of a standard.
And I like the traditional Scrabble board because I like the size of the pieces and then just how they're set up. So the traditional board, I think the pieces were wooden.
Yes.
Which I like better. You buy the newer ones. And
they're like that plastic that it doesn't stay on the board.
I'm not thrilled with that. But Scrabble, in my mind, it's probably maybe 7 and up, but it's a great game for young kids because it teaches them how to spell.
Yeah, except then you got kids who play. There's a kind of a different version of it. It's Bananagrams. It's basically Scrabble, but a slightly different setting. And I had a friend who played POR, and he goes, like in por favor. Oh, I was like, that's not a word. You tried, but we're not quite there.
One of the things that I don't like, though, is I don't use the Scrabble dictionary because there's so many words I consider questionable words that I think it's got to be words that are more common. It can't be some of these
Yo.
Newer words that I'm like, oh, that's a terrible word, or something like that. Now, for all you Scrabble players out there, my mom used to always say, all right, here's a great 3-letter word to get rid of a Z. It's called Fez, F-E-Z. And that's worth a lot of points because I think the F is probably 4 and the Z is 10, right?
That is a lot of a good trivia game game to play that helps with trivia questions is they ask you what the point score is or how many squares are on it.
Right.
That's a good one.
But Scrabble always is a great way to learn how to spell. And I remember years ago playing one time. So if you play 7 letters, you get a
50-point bonus. It's a big deal if you can do it. I always go for the 7 letter.
I think my stepson Justin, it was his first time playing ever, and he puts down handbag to start the game. And then, so I think it's your first word is double score, and he gets a 50-point bonus. So he started off with about 100 points right off the bat.
Probably cheated. Who knows?
Yeah.
Not bitter. It's okay.
But Scrabble, again.
Did you ever play, because they came out with Words with Friends, which is a online version of playing Scrabble. That one was hard to play, though, because their dictionary for words was pretty lenient.
Yeah, pretty broad. I don't like it when the dictionaries include words. I'm like, really? That's not a word.
It's hard to play.
A sentence,
Yeah, you should be required to. That's what when we were playing the one game the other day. You should be required to use it in a sentence.
Right. Otherwise,
I will agree. He did peak at Scrabble at age 8.
Yeah, the comment was...
not a bad thing. I don't know if I've ever truly played a 7-letter word, so at least he's done it. That's pretty cool.
It's hard to get 7-letter words. I tell you what helps me out with Scrabble, is... what is it? It's in the newspaper all the time. What's that little crossword?
Oh, the jumbles?
Jumbles, yeah. I do jumbles all the time. And
Just leave it.
The jumbles, I can crush those jumbles, and I think it's because of Scrabble.
Who knows?
Because you're
Couldn't tell you.
The letters up and trying to come up with a word. So really, the goal is in Scrabble is to have larger words and then play on the key
use
spaces.
you want to play on key spaces using your big point letters like the Q or the Z.
Right.
Because then you get a lot of points.
Right. And again, it's when you have 4 people.
It's pretty tough.
I guess here's something we didn't talk about. So when you're playing games like these, I think all the games we've mentioned so far are probably about a half hour to an hour long. You think?
I think it depends. I mean, if you play pretty aggressive, you can go pretty long because everybody's not getting anywhere. Right. What else have we talked about? Candyland is pretty timed, like it goes pretty quick.
Shorter, right? Could be long or short.
What else did Chess, I mean, that one's timed. It's 20 minutes. I usually do a 10-minute version, so that has a cap.
Dominoes, probably about an hour, I would think.
I'd say Dominoes and Scrabble have been the 2 longer that we've said.
Right. And the Game of Life, that's probably 30 minutes.
Yeah, that one really depends on how many people and if you roll high numbers, because some people can blow through the board. And
Yep.
Yeah, this one's on the longer end.
All right. Well, that's my top 2. And so, Brooke, why don't you bring up one of your top 2 items?
So my other one, this is a new one that I got introduced to when I moved up to Wisconsin. One of my friends had it.
Oh, when you moved up to Wisconsin.
It's called Secret Hitler.
Yeah.
This one I just really like because it makes people really mad when you play it.
I can't believe they have this name though. It's almost not even appropriate.
Even I think you'll get a kick out of this. So part of the game is you give out cards and everybody's associated to a party. You're either a fascist or you're a liberal.
Okay.
And the way the fascists win is you either get enough there's like red cards or blue cards. The fascists are trying to get red cards played. The liberals are trying to get blue cards played. And the way to win is either, so for fascists, they want Hitler to become the, I forget the name for it. Basically, someone's president and someone's I think it starts with a C. But like basically you want him to become the, can you look up?
Okay, I'll look it up.
Yeah, I just need to see the rules. But anyway, you do that. But then the liberals can win because there's different events that can occur when you play different cards. And one of them is you can, like, shoot somebody or kill them in the game.
Okay.
So, based on how people are playing their cards, you can kind of guess which team they're on. And you want to end up trying to kill Hitler, because one person is Hitler in the game.
Okay, right. So, there's always one person that's Hitler?
Can I see this? Because there's someone who is the... Okay, can you stop scrolling so fast?
Yep.
There is
Chancellor.
Yes, you're trying to get Hitler to be Chancellor because you want him to like be the rules. But what's great is people always say don't hold grudges from round to round.
Yeah.
And people always hold grudges because you have to lie. If you're a fascist, you're trying to convince them that you're a liberal. And if you're Hitler, you don't want them to know you're Hitler, otherwise you're going to get killed.
So it says right here, the game ends in a liberal victory if either 5 liberal policies are enacted.
Which is the blue cards, yes.
Or Hitler is assassinated.
Yes. So
what kind of game is this?
This one, it gets really heated, which is why I think it's so entertaining.
Yeah.
Because basically, like, you just got to gaslight people in this game. And it's really fun to do because it's just a board game. Like, you're not... It's doing no harm because it's within the context of a game.
Now how long does this game take to place?
It depends. Sometimes people get real mad and they start yelling at each other, so we kind of have a hiatus of they're like, no,
I'm
but
not
they're
sure it's a good game.
It's not a good game to play with people who would get offended by you.
So would it work in the Grinder family?
It would be really fun. Yeah. I don't know if it would work, but we would, because basically you have to be able to leave the game and still be friends with them. Because you're going to accuse someone of being a liar.
Well, I guess you should do it with family all the time because what's the saying? You can pick your friends, but you can't pick your family. So they're always your family, right?
Yeah, so it's a pretty good... I mean, I want to play this with us. This is one game I'd love to play as a family because I'd like to see how we do.
Now,
because basically, like, it's similar to... I don't know if you know of the... It's not a board game, but it's called Mafia, where people... They close their eyes and everybody has a different role, and you're trying to suss out the mafia members.
Okay.
It's similar to that, but in board game fashion.
Oh, okay.
So there's a lot of, I can't think of the term. There's a game that came out that's a video game. It's called Among Us. It's the same one. And they're kind of just like strategic lying games.
Right.
Like you want to convince people that you're not the person they're trying to kill.
How many people can play this game of...
like 10.
10, okay.
So the more people you have, the more fun it is because it gets confusing. Because then there's like...
And there's only one Hitler.
Yes, there's always only one Hitler, but the number of fascists change based on how many people.
Okay.
So if you don't have a lot of people, there's not a lot of fascists. If you have more people, you add more. And then there's also more like events where like... So one example, why I think it's so fun, there's one like action... And someone plays, like, there's been so many fascist cards that have been played. The event says you can look at another person's party card.
Okay.
So you can definitively read with your own eyes what party they're affiliated to. And so, like, I'll be like, I'll read your card, and I look at it, and it says liberal. And I'll be like, he's a fascist. And then you'll be like, I'm not a fascist. And then it kind of, like, goes from there.
I'm looking at some of the, I guess, cards here or something. So there's a Paul von Hindenburg.
Oh, they're actual people?
Hermann Goring. Oh, and those are real people. Yeah, those are real people.
Oh, and the version my friend has, it's not that. We just call them mustache men.
Mustache men. Do they all have this?
Because I think they're like frogs and like they're not real people.
So you can do a game of 5 to 6 or 7 to 10.
Yeah, so really there's instructions on how to set up the game based on number of playing. But it's one I highly recommend, but you might get into some heated discussions.
So and I'm seeing like one of the cards here is 9 and
yeah. So you vote.
So it's in German.
So whenever there's so few, like some people may have like been like shot and they're not in the game anymore. And whenever you get to a point where there's a point in which when Hitler's elected chancellor, they win.
Okay,
so if they are like, I'd like to nominate this person, the president nominates them for chancellor. So I'd be like, I nominate Jeff. And everybody votes, and they're like, no, I think he's Hitler, so they vote no. But then, based on how people vote, kind of can indicate what party they belong to.
Wow.
So there's a lot of, like, I mean, because you have to also kind of figure out how someone plays. Like, some people get really quiet when they're trying to lie because they're not good at lying, or...
So I would guess that
it's really fun.
Is, like, 16 and over or something like that. You know, probably...
I'd say you got to be a little bit older because there's a lot of strat. But I'd say you could play like 10 and older.
Right.
I don't think parents probably would like to see that their kids playing Secret Hitler at age 10, but it's, you know...
That's a little bit of a problem, yeah.
I remember when someone told me that this game existed, I was like, that's something that exists in the world?
Yeah,
like, that's kind of crazy.
Heard of this game. All right, well, and before we get into our last games, which might be the top, let's talk about some of the other games that exist.
But I don't want you to say what my top game is.
No, I'm not going to do it. I guess I'm going to mention a few games that are out there, like some honorable mentions. like Stratego, Risk, Yahtzee, Sorry Trouble, those kind of things.
That's what I'm saying. Risk is my number one.
Is it your number? Well, save it.
Risk is my number one.
But these other games like Stratego, that's one of those cool little board games.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like it. I don't play it often, but every 3 years, I'm like, I'll play a game of Stratego.
But Stratego is one of those games where I didn't like because they kept coming out with different flavors.
That one, don't you have you have a Star Wars or a Lord of the Rings?
Lord of the Rings, right? I'm like,
that's the version we have.
Who's the spy in Lord of the Rings? And I'm always having to look at the board to figure it out.
Well, then they're based on their number.
Yeah.
So they're different characters, but the number always is in the corner. So as long as you know what number does what.
I just like the more traditional one. I thought it was easier to follow and stuff. But against Stratego, it is a strategy game.
It's pretty good.
I think younger kids can play that one because
this one's like playing Battleship.
Yeah, I would agree.
You kind of put your pieces, and then I did too, until I was thinking about how a lot of the strategies, where you put your pieces to begin with, where you hide the flag.
Right.
Whereas Battleship, it's some people do the put them all in one corner thing, or some people in Stratego will put their bombs not near their flag, and they put I don't know, you just.
And the commercials, you sunk my battleship.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Battleship and Stratego, I would say, are very similar in a lot of ways. Because it's all about strategy. Stratego, you're moving the pieces. In Battleship, you're calling out spaces.
You're trying to figure out where things are and stuff like that.
Yeah, I've seen the electronic version of Battleship, so that does exist.
I'm saying one honorable mention that I threw in it called to because we kind of wanted to compare some of the newer games with some of the classics. I threw in one, I don't know if you had mentioned Cards Against Humanity.
Yeah.
I did What Do You Mean, because I think that one's really funny. Basically, you get it's a picture that was turned into a meme at one point.
Okay, yeah.
And so you get cards.
The one of, who is the politician where you're sitting? Bernie was
yes,
sitting everywhere.
With the mittens. That's probably in the game. He's sitting there with the mittens, and you have cards, and then it'll be when you're waiting for your pizza delivery on the front porch. You play a card that tries to match the.
Oh, that sounds fun.
So it's like apples to apples, but it's a meme picture, and you're trying to come up with a funny caption for this picture. So I like this one because this one's fun, and I think there's no true skill. You kind of got to play the judge. Right. You got to know your audience, and it's just a fun. I think it's because Cards Against Humanity is kind of out there. This one's a wholesome game.
Well, and we have to throw this one in here because I'm sure a lot of people were playing games at Thanksgiving, whether it be charades or whether it be any of those type of games, but. We were playing
Pictionary.
No. This past Thursday we were playing
Scruples?
Scruples. We were playing Scruples.
That doesn't fall into that category.
And Scruples.
You gotta explain what Scruples is, because not a lot of people know.
If you haven't played that game, it's an old game. It was that game was from I was looking at the cards. It was 1987.
Yes,
and
it's an old game.
The meaning,
it looks like it's written like it's made in the 80s.
It was just funny how it referred to different situations because it talked about it in a 1987 flavor.
Not very politically correct, ever.
Not politically correct, ever. Yeah, it was just funny because it referred to couples as lovers all the time on the cards.
And so Scruples, the word itself means it's kind of like a.
Do you have scruples? Yeah.
It's not a morals, but it's what are your where do you stand on different concepts? Because everybody, and you're trying to get people to answer a certain way based on the question, and so it's kind of interesting because you're you ask someone thinking oh, you need money, do you take it from the donation box?
Right.
And then you see how the person answers, so it's kind of fun.
Well, and then the one game and this is a game anybody can play, I think, because you can always help people with, is Yahtzee.
Oh yeah,
you roll the dice. That's a classic game.
You don't gotta help; you just gotta roll the dice.
And that one's very portable because the size of the game, not very big. It's small compared to most games because all you need is 5 dice, and then obviously you have a scorecard. But
I'm sure nowadays you could probably get a digital scorecard.
I would think so. Yeah.
So you just need 5 dice and you can roll it.
That was always a problem back in the day. Was the fact that you ran out of the scorecards after a while. You had to kind of make your own again, And then another game that came up in the chat was Clue.
Yes.
So that's a good game.
I think Clue is out there. That was one, some of my friends in college, we would play that sometimes.
Yeah. Now,
and I will quote that here and there, where if someone's making a joke, they're trying to figure something out, and I'm it was this guy with the candlestick in the...
with the lead pipe. It was Colonel Mustard with the lead pipe in the library.
Yeah.
And that is one that is a board game where, I'm trying to think, you do roll, is it one dice?
You roll a dice you can do, I think you're supposed to do one, but two's better because you're trying to get into different rooms so you can figure out, like, what isn't it.
Right.
So if you do one dice, you don't get around the board very quick. So 2 dice is probably better.
Right. So that's just
that one's really fun because then when someone guesses and they're wrong, you're like, I want to know what it was.
Yeah, because the minute you're wrong, you're out.
Yeah, but you get to look and you get to know, but you can't do it anymore.
Because I think there's the lead pipe, there's the gun.
There's the revolver, the rope. The candlestick. Probably
there's a knife.
Yeah, there's definitely a knife.
Yeah, and there's I'm sure we're missing something
Yeah,
else.
and I love the character names in that, like Colonel Mustard.
Yeah, it's Colonel Mustard. I'm trying to
Miss Peacock, Mr. White.
There's a Plum.
I think he's Dr. White now.
Professor Plum.
Yeah, Professor. This is a trivia question. I've been asked this before. Miss Scarlet.
Yeah.
Because they're all based on their colors. That's pretty good.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you're right. I never really thought about that. Colonel
I'd say
must be yellow, huh?
one more honorable mention is code names, which I think is a newer one.
Yeah.
Where this one you get one word to describe a card that is for your team, and they have to try and guess it based on your clues.
Yeah.
So this one's a good strategy one.
Is that the same? We were playing those Jackbox games, wasn't it?
No. This one you can play online. You played online with your friends.
Yeah.
Where basically it's like there's different words and you say like forest and they're trying to guess trees, plants.
I like it.
So this one's kind of a fun new one.
Definitely is a fun new one. All right, well let's get to the.
So then I guess I can lead with my number one since you already kind of ruined it. Mine is Risk, and mainly this is my number one because I play this game all the time. I have a mobile version for it, and I always loved this game, but no one ever wanted to play with me because everybody else hates Risk.
It's super long.
Yes, that's why everybody else hates it.
Yeah, I like Risk.
I love the long board games.
It's long, so you got to, when you have a board game like this, there's a classic episode of Seinfeld about Risk, and I think at the very, in there, it's Newman ends up like throwing the board all over the place or something.
Because he's like Newman's moving the pieces. He's going over Newman.
Because it could take days to play and stuff, so you got to leave the board intact.
Yeah.
He's moving the pieces on me.
But I just like it because it's very much there's a lot of luck, but there's also a lot of strat. So I like ones that there is a luck factor because I think if games are too much strategy, some people just can't play.
Now, in the newer versions of Risk, did they update the countries?
No, usually because they don't do every country. It's more regional.
Yeah.
Like the U.S., is, at least in the version I play, the U.S. is like one big thing, but there's other maps. So like I like one of my favorite maps that I play on the app is it's all the U.S. states. But even then, it's bigger regions because if there's so many regions, it's going to add to the length of time.
Now again, it's a pretty good game because it does teach you about the world, the countries in the world.
I know where a lot of countries lie that I would not normally know.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm going to bet that they have updated a little bit here and there, just because things have changed, like Slovakia. Czechoslovakia is now I think the Czech Republic. So they do change some of that a little bit here.
Can't say that I really pay that close attention.
And in Africa, the continent of Africa, there's been a lot of changes there over time. So I can't keep up with them. But yeah, that's a really good game, and I think it's simple because you're just drawing cards, right?
Yeah, I mean,
you can decide to attack, and you have how many die?
You have. It depends on how many pieces you have in that country and which one you're attacking. Like so, it's like usually the most you can roll is 3, and it's like a 3v2. So there's a lot of different rules and stuff like that.
And I'm sure.
And this is one where this is very similar to Settlers of Catan in that way where it's like there's a lot of ways you can play it. Yeah. I think that's why I like both of those games so much because they're the same style.
Right. Yeah, it's Risk has been around a long time as a game, so it's definitely a game that most people can play. I would think again it's probably ages 10 and up.
Yeah, probably about.
Because you kind of have to really understand the strategies in this one. And you have to really know. There's more rules, a little more complicated. in this as overall. All right.
Yeah. So is Monopoly in your top one?
Monopoly's my top one.
It is.
Yeah,
I'm saying, because I got a pretty funny story before you get into it. I have a friend who some of us we can't play Monopoly with because we're the kind of people who, if you don't notice that, like, we landed on your space, we're not going to pay you.
I agree with
that. So I have a couple of friends that will not play, because this is one we played a lot in my last year of college. And one of my friends, she's like, I'm never playing with you guys ever again. So, and I used to play this a lot in high school too. So I think it's a really good first choice.
There's a short version and a long version if you want to.
What's the short version?
The short version, you start off with a bunch of the cards already out to people and stuff.
Oh, I've never done that.
Now, if you think about it, Monopoly teaches you, collecting rent, rolling dice, teaches you.
Isn't it teaches you about capitalism?
Strategy. Yeah, it does a little bit, and about winning. There's different. I don't think they're all states on there because you got.
Well, they're not states.
You got Connecticut, you got Maryland,
that's true.
And in different colors, and again, that game's been around a long time.
What were your favorite spaces to get? Everybody has the ones that they always go for.
I'd say Pennsylvania and Pacific. And
I always liked getting the brown ones, just because they were easy to put hotels on. Like the cheapest ones, the ones right by go, but on the cheap side.
Well, there's Mediterranean
and Baltic, I think. Yeah.
Mediterranean and Baltic. That'd be a good trivia question.
Name the
colors.
Yeah.
If there was like a light
I probably
blue.
could do pretty decent.
Yeah, I think I could do the same.
I could make some guesses.
No, I really liked. I really liked that game because you can have many players in that game. You could probably have, I'd say, up to 6 players in that game.
Yeah.
Comfortable.
What piece do you pick?
That doesn't matter to me. I'm okay with the different pieces.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I like the top hat or the money bag.
Yeah, the boot's pretty neat, and this is a game that teaches you to count money. Because
that's just teaching math.
Well, it's a nice part about it because sometimes rent might be like $12. It's not round numbers, it's not 10, 20, 30. So everything is a little bit different. So that part's real nice. And
it's a pretty fun game.
Yeah, most definite. So we got a few more minutes left. Now, why don't we talk about our new logo?
Yeah, so the new logo, I spent a good amount of time. Here, I'll take the game off the screen.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to update, we were thinking we wanted to make more mugs, and I kept saying I wanted to update the logo before we did, or at least that's what I was telling him. So I finally got around to it. And, I think I did a pretty good job.
Oh, yeah.
So our updated logo, you tuned in just in time to see it.
Yes.
This is the new
logo.
logo.
The new logo, yeah.
So we're hoping I think we'll stick to mugs to begin with. But, I thought it was not bad. It took me a while to figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
I appreciate the hype for it because, it was pretty. I used the tool Procreate, which kind of became a big thing whenever, like, quarantine and all that stuff hit. And so that was kind of my project when I came home for Thanksgiving. I was like, I'm going to work on the logo. I'm going to get it done. And I learned how to use the tool. He watched some YouTube videos, and I ended up drawing it up. Took a bit to figure out how to do the hair, but...
Yeah.
So now really the question is, now that we have a new logo, what other sort of, like, giveaways should we do? Like, would people want this on, like, a hat? Or, is there other sort of, like... merch things that we could do in the future. As more people kind of listen, we can expand our items.
We are the grind after all.
Yeah, because I thought a t-shirt could be cool because we could take like the words the grind off, so we kind of can edit it here and there.
Right.
But yeah, so hopefully everybody, those who stuck around got to see the first glance at it, and we're going to use it to kind of update some different things.
I'm also thinking this, and feel free because... if you have some other great ideas, etc., but the grind, we need to come up with a coffee flavor for the grind.
Well, that's what I was saying.
Make our own coffee.
Yeah, the longer we can do it, and in the future too, I think if people donate, if they donate like over $5-10, we'll send you a mug, sort of thing.
Yes.
So I think it kind of provides
NPR. We're trying to raise some money right now. You do this, we'll send you the grind mug as well. And that's not all.
And that's not all. For your as low as $2.99 a week.
That would be good.
I don't have. Maybe I need to figure out the donation link. I haven't quite figured it out.
You haven't figured that out? That's kind
of important. Well, I thought I had it linked, but or like in a sense of there's something you got to click. I guess, I mean, I will figure that out in the future, but you know, maybe I'll send you one just for fun. It's Lewis.
Okay.
He's the one we were talking about Dominoes earlier. I don't know if you were on, and I mentioned Hawaiian Dominoes.
Hawaiian Dominoes.
Yeah, because he was one of the ones who helped teach it. So.
Got it. Oh, it's a flavor I'll have to learn at some point.
It's pretty fun. I kind of liked it.
Now,
it wasn't
too bad. I do encourage
too bad.
everybody to get out there and look at our site because you've updated our bios and
things
like
bit.
that, right?
Try to do some. It'll keep kind of progressing. The longer I kind of use it, I've been figuring out how to change different features and add things to our page to kind of make it more personable, and so you kind of like get to know what the grind is and what we kind of talk about on this podcast. And I mean, eventually I've given you homework on how to make YouTube videos and how to learn how to do it.
Right.
So his like thing is trying to figure out how to edit the videos and get them out there so we can have the podcasts.
Now, well, I'm getting better at that because I'm using some software to do some video editing.
Yeah.
Luckily, your dad is a tech dad. Otherwise, we'd be hurting because none of my friends they can't hardly unlock
They're
their
not
car
quite
door.
getting it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I see you tried using the command. We kind of had a snafu at the beginning that it doesn't seem to work.
Wow, you got some smart listeners on
here. Well,
here.
he uses it, so he understands. He's the one who kind of pointed it out to me, and that's when I started kind of looking into it.
Nice, yeah.
So I figured it out on my channel, but not on this one yet. So we're getting there.
Yeah, we're working on it.
Yeah.
So more things to come here in the future. So another great segment, I think.
I think this was a pretty fun one.
If
you have recommendations,
here,
I
noticed the scenery is getting better as the sun's going down.
Yeah, it changed throughout.
yeah, it's been very nice here. Temperature-wise, perfect day to sit outside and do some remote broadcasting. So, really enjoyed this broadcast. And
if you have suggestions for another topic, let us know, and because I don't think we have a set for the
we do not
next.
Have a set list,
we've been thinking about doing one about baking. That's kind of been on our to-dos, so we'll see.
And we'll have some guests here again too. I think we're about due to have a.
And we'll probably have another on location one or like remote one whenever I'm back in for the next holiday.
Well, I would assume that we have to have a remote location one when we play.
Oh yeah, we could do one up there for sure. So be looking forward to some pretty neat ones coming up in the future, and thanks to everybody for stopping in and listening. Hopefully it was a good one.
And have a great rest of the weekend. And, see you next time.
Enjoy the rest of the holiday.